All right. So you guys wanted a video on how to kind of set everything up with the stocks and also kind of go over some of the things we went over. So purpose of this video is to kind of explain a little bit about the stocks and at the same time kind of go over some of the concepts with like entering hard numbers versus referencing and how to enter formulas and what the formulas mean. The first thing we're going to do is, again, kind of just give you an overview of what you're looking at here. The best thing about Excel and all the Microsoft products and the Office package is they all pretty much have the same basic interface and format, meaning you got your home remit up here. You have your tabs, and each tab has its own type of groups, and inside each group has commands. The groups that we're going to be looking at, the tab we're going to be looking at mostly today is just the home tab with the font group, the alignment group, and the number group. As stated before in class, I don't like starting in columns A or B or even in rows 1, 2, or 3. So we're going to kind of start over here, C4. And the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to add titles to our columns because we're going to track stock progress over a couple of days. So the first thing we're going to need to know is the date. And all I'm doing is just entering in by just clicking and then typing in data. Right now, we're just entering in hard data. There is no cell, there is no formulas or anything like that. These are just words, no numbers even. If you want, there's two ways to enter in data. Notice as I click, this green box follows me around. That is the active cell. One way to enter in data is just obviously have an active cell and type. Or the other way to enter in data is to go up here next to the FX line. This is actually what would tell you all that is in that cell. All right, a couple things I want to go ahead and show you here. Notice ticker symbol does bleed over into column F. However, though, even though the little bit of the M and the BOL looks like it's in cell F4, notice though, again, going up to that FX, this will tell you what is in that cell. There's actually nothing in cell F4. It's actually all in E4. So with this being said, I'll show you how to go ahead and widen your columns or even heighten your rows. In order to widen it to the length of the longest data in a cell, so like right here we have company name, but we can only see company. Very simply, notice as I take my cursor up in between D and F, it turns into a double-ended arrow. If I were to just click and hold, I can drag it out, and this is a way you can customize the width of your column. However, though, like I said before, if you want to make it the width of the longest data in the column, you could just simply double-click. Same thing with E and F. Notice ticker symbol does bleed into the F. If I just double-click in between the E and the F, double-ended arrow, it will snap to the size of this data in this cell. Since we will be entering in some company names that are longer than what we've got here, I'm going to go ahead and just drag this out a little bit longer. All right. Next thing we're going to want to do is keep going on with our columns, but we got the date, the name of the company we're going to invest in, the ticker symbol, which is just a nickname, a short little nickname for the company. The next thing we're going to want to go to is put our purchase price. All right, and since the purchase price is usually going to be a number that's either going to be 5-digit with, in the hundreds with a couple of cents and all that, we don't necessarily need this column to be that wide. So this is where I'm going to go ahead and show you how to use this wrap text feature. Notice purchase price overlaps into G. If we want them to stack on top of each other and kind of stay within these parameters, we highlight the cell we want to go ahead and affect, and we go up into the home tab, the alignment group, and under wrap text, when you click wrap text, it'll go ahead and snap purchase price below it. Next, we're going to want to know our initial cost. We're going to do the same thing here with wrap text. And then we're going to go ahead and, oh, hold on, sorry. We're not going to do initial cost next because we need to know how many shares we're buying. So number of shares. Then we've got initial cost. We're going to wrap text there. Okay. So a stock, let me go ahead and just pull up. We'll stop right here before we continue on with what it's worth today. Think of buying stocks kind of like going to a grocery store where every aisle has its own type of like theme of either baking goods, soups, or canned foods. or cereal. It's going to be the same thing with stocks. All right. You can walk into a store, figuratively here, or metaphorically, sorry, not figuratively. And you go around, you find companies you want to purchase. Think about taking off shares, putting them in a cart, and kind of like purchasing them in a way. So for instance, people always say, well, what do you invest in if you're new to it? Simplest way to go ahead with that is just say, invest in things you know. So, I mean, everybody knows the company Apple. So we'll go ahead, type in Apple. Notice as you start to type in a company name, google.com/finance will give you kind of little hints of what you're trying to get at. So in this case, we're going to Apple Inc. And it will show you, once it loads, I'll go over everything you're seeing here. All right. Now that's loaded in, first thing you're going to see is the name of the company. So this is Apple Inc. You'll see NASDAQ, which is what it's traded on. All right. And then you will see its ticker symbol, this 4-digit or 4-letter nickname for the company. All right. So with that, let's go ahead and kind of copy this information into our portfolio. Let's go and put our data in. Ticker symbol, AAPL. Right? And the price that you're going to see, or the price that you're going to be buying it at, don't worry about this pre-market right now. This is something a little bit more complex. Just know that it's going to be that big black number when you first see it. All right, so this is the number that you're going to be using as your purchase price. So 139.84. So I'm going to go ahead and type that in. Now, this is the first time we're actually putting in a number. Again, this is a hard number. There is no referencing. Nothing's going to kind of like work all together. This is just one simple hard number. Okay. Number of shares is completely up to you. Remember, you had $100,000 to spend. In this case, simple, we'll go ahead and type in 20 shares. Think of going into a store, seeing Apple on the shelves. You're going to pull off 20 shares of Apple off the shelf. You're going to put it in your cart. And now we're going to go to the checkout line, and the person at the register is going to swipe all 20 shares. And at the end, you're going to get a total cost, or in this case, we call it an initial cost for that. All right, so one share costs $139.84. We want to find out how much 20 shares cost, and this is where we are going to use cell referencing. So in Excel, the first thing you need to do is tell Excel we're ready for an equation or formula. And in order to do that, you always press the equal sign. Once you hit equal sign, Excel now knows that it's going to be using cell referencing, or it's going to use some type of formula to generate what's going to be shown in cell H5. In this case, we will be using cell referencing, and I'll explain that here in a little bit, why we use cell referencing. All right, so again, we're at the checkout counter. We've got 20 shares of Apple, and each costs $139.84. So in order to find out how much 20 shares would cost, we'd have to multiply these two cells. So I'm going to go ahead and click F5. And we're going to multiply it by the total number of shares. Notice as I click, you get different colors over each cell. And then notice in H5, it doesn't actually give you the numbers. It just gives you the cell. And that's going to be important here when we buy our next couple stocks. Once you hit enter, it will go ahead and do that math for you. So it's going to cost us $2,796.80 for the 20 shares of Apple. All right. So let's go ahead and do another example just so I can show you kind of how cell referencing really works here. So let's go and put another date in. And let's go ahead and just pick the competing company of Apple as Microsoft. Again, name of the company and its ticker symbol is MSFT. I'm going to highlight that. We are going to go ahead and copy. Control V to paste. Ticker symbol. Copy it and paste. Again, its purchase price is going to be the big black number that you see here. So 64.21 is the number we're going to register as. And let's say we're going to go ahead and buy 150 shares. Okay. Now, since this is using cell referencing, if I were to ask you what is in cell H5, a lot of you guys would say $2,796.80, which would be incorrect. Again, anytime you want to see what is inside of a cell, you look up at this FX line right here, this function line. It will tell you everything that's in there. So Excel doesn't recognize $2,796.80 inside cell H5. It actually only knows that it's taking whatever values in F5 and multiplying by whatever value is in G5. And I'll go ahead and show you here in a second. So since we want to use this same function, this same formula, and this same multiplication, we're going to go ahead and just copy that formula down. And this is how cell referencing is going to help us. Excel knows that if we go ahead and copy this down, it's going to copy down the cell referencing as well. So instead of seeing F5 and G5, you're going to see F6 and G6. All right. In order to copy down, you'll notice there's going to be a black box on your guy's screen, but on my screen, I've got a green little square in the bottom right-hand corner. Notice as I move towards that square, my white puffy plus sign turns into a skinny black sign. That means I can click, hold, and drag down. And notice now you have F6 times G6. And here's the cool thing about cell referencing. Say I made a mistake. You know what? I wasn't wanting to buy 150. We want to do 100. I type in 100. Notice as I hit enter, this will automatically change itself. Again, it doesn't recognize this number 6,421. It recognizes I'm only taking whatever value's here and multiplying it by whatever value is there. Okay? Now, I'll get to the other columns tomorrow because I don't, the stock market's not open. Once it's open, I'll post another video so I can show you about gain, loss, and yield. But I'm going to go ahead and show you kind of like how you get your total and how you go ahead and make how much money to invest, money spent, money left to spend. Again, I'm going to double click in between here. You started off with 100,000. This is a hard number that I'm putting in there. No cell referencing. All right, total. So now think about this. We're at the store. We're buying all of these things. Apple costs us this much. Microsoft costs us this much. So our total is going to be adding up of all these numbers, especially when we start adding in stocks here. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to use a built-in formula that Excel has. All right. So as before, like I said, first thing you need to do is enter in that symbol that Excel knows we're going to be doing a formula or an equation. So we're going to hit equal sign. And we're going to start typing out the word sum because we're going to be adding things. Technically, yes, we could do this equals this, plus this, plus this, plus this, plus this, yada, yada, yada. But Excel has a formula that does all that for us, which is the sum function. So once you type out sum, you just double click the formula. And now what it's doing is it's going to ask you for a range of numbers that you want to add up. All right. So we want to add this, 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 and this. Now, in order to do that, you're going to click and drag. Do not include your total cell. You want to include the one above it. If you include the total cell, you're going to get like an error right here. So what you're going to want to do is click, hold, and drag the range that you want to do. So in my case, it's H5 through H10. And I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. And it'll automatically go ahead and add all those numbers up. So if I start adding numbers in here, you will notice that number will change. All right, the last thing I'm going to show you before I end is I'm going to show you how to bring this number up to here. So this money spent and money to invest is constantly updating as you buy stock. So we're going to go and use cell referencing just like we were doing right here. But instead of doing an equation, we're just going to set this cell B2 equal to our total cell H11. Notice now this number will change anytime this number changes. So if I add numbers in, notice both this one and this one changed. All right, then money left to spend is very simple. you're just going to go ahead, tell Excel you want to go ahead and do an equation or formula. And again, cell reference, subtract those two out. And now I know I have $90,782.20 to spend. So everything technically from here, this number is based off these numbers. This number is based off this number, which is based off these numbers, which is based off these numbers. So again, if I do one more stock, you're going to see how everything will change for us. And go back. We'll do another one everybody knows, Tesla. Grab the name of the company. I'm going to paste it in there. Grab its ticker symbol. Paste it in there. Notice the big black number, 250.68. So $250.68. Let's say we go ahead and buy 80 shares. We're going to go ahead and copy down that formula. And the one thing I want you to take note of is that this total number will change, this number will change, and that number will change, all based off of cell referencing. And there you go. You now notice we have $70,727.80 left to spend. So since now is 7:18 and I already have a line of people that have questions that ask me, I'm going to go ahead and stop right here, and we'll pick up on this on part 2.